hard to write screenplays. Part of why I wanted to leave was I wouldn't say it's easy to write film reviews, but it's relatively easy to know whether a film's working or not. The audience evaluates the films. And so to be articulate about it is just all that remains. To make a good film, to write a screenplay, it's surprisingly hard. It shouldn't be that hard. You're really creating a diversion for people for 2 hours.
Right.
But because of the length, and it's almost like writing a villanelle or one of those forms that's got so many requirements that to hit the marks you need to hit and to express something is incredibly hard. And then, the result is there's like a handful of people who know how to do it.
Did you always kind of hear the siren call of movies or drama or kind of that element in play in the back of your head in terms of where you'd eventually be in your career? Were you always like a fan of movies?
I really grew up with books. I really come out of that. I'm not one of those clerk in a video store guys. Right. I read a lot, and my foundation is still literature, and trying, which is probably a foolish thing, to try to give the kind of depth that you get from a literary experience to film. Mm-hmm. My earliest mentor was Joe Mankiewicz, and he was just amazing. He came out here when he was 19, so his experience went back to writing titles for W.C. Fields.
Oh, wow.
So,
like title cards?
Or? Yeah, the titles, the title cards, silent era. Mm-hmm. His brother was out here. He came out here.
Herman Mankiewicz?
Herman was out here. He came out here, he was 19. Mm-hmm. And by the time he was 25, he was producing the Philadelphia Story. So his history went so far into film history that there was just this wealth of wisdom to draw on.
Oh, that's great. And he kind of became a mentor for him. You've done a lot of adaptations. What draws you to that mode of screenwriting? Is it on purpose, or is it just kind of the way everything worked out?
If you're adapting something, you're starting with something, and everybody, all your colleagues, you're kind of in the same sandbox. So it's a way to know going in that you all have the same aspirations. It's a little more fleshed out than an idea.
Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, adaptations are all different. In other words, Quiz Show was a chapter in a book. It was really not fleshed out. Donnie Brasco was, again, and it was the Lefty-Donnie relationship was a chapter in a much longer book about Joe's experiences undercover. They're all different.
Right.
Disclosure, I had very specific marching orders to follow the plot. How you do it and what qualifies as a quote-unquote adaptation or not they're all over the map.
But there's a little bit of a germ to start with, but at least that's
what I like about it is there's a germ to start with. What I like is, at least in some thematic sense or you kind of know what the locations are going to be. You're in some kind of ballpark.
Mm-hmm. Have you written any screenplays on spec, on the other side of the coin?
Yeah, I've written original screenplays.
On spec or on assignment?
I've never written on spec.
Okay.
I've always written on assignment because, again, part of what you're doing as a screenwriter is you're trying to get a bunch of people to make a movie.
Right.
So if you're writing on spec, you're starting from a dead standstill. If you're writing an assignment, well, okay, you have people invested in making that movie. If you're a high-priced screenwriter, they're more invested. So ultimately, you're trying to get those elements together that will actually put up the money, direct the movie, star in the movie, and working outside of a dialogue with those people just feels harder. Mm-hmm. When I work with directors, I work very closely with them for the same reason. And by the time the screenplay is turned in, we all know the movie we're making, and they've contributed. And so it's not that throwing this baby over the transom saying, here, you deal with it. Mm-hmm. It's a better process.
Because there's more of a will to get something done. It's already been signed off on, at least conceptually, by the people.